Hello everyone, my dear students and my dear learners. Let us study one more poem that is very popular and very famous and often becomes the part of the question paper in competitive examinations like PGT, TGT, UGC net and so many other state competitive examinations, particularly for recruiting PGT or TGT teacher, particularly for English language and literature, that is Shakespeare. This is, my dear learners, this is the title. This is the title of the poem that we are going to study line by line, composed by Matthew Arnold, one of the greatest poets and critics of the Victorian age. The timeline of Victorian age is 1837 to 1901. Why? Because in 1837, Queen Victoria was just appointed the Queen of the country, or Victoria was appointed the Queen of the country, and 1901 she died. In this very particular poem, or you can say that through this very particular poem, actually Matthew Arnold is paying his heartfelt tribute or homage to the all-time greatest poet and dramatist in English language, that is William Shakespeare. Here, Matthew Arnold is glorifying the personality of this all-time great poet, great dramatist, and he wants to say in brief that he is divine. He is not an earthly creature like Matthew Arnold and rest of the authors or the writers or the critics or the analysts, but he is God-like. His stature is just like the stature of the God. This is a sonnet. Sonnet, you know that. Sonnet is a 14-line poem that expresses the feeling of a particular individual. You know that we have two kinds of sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet, based on the model of Petrarch, the Italian poet, and second one, that is English sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet. But this sonnet is neither modeled on the sonnets of Petrarch nor modeled on the English sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet. Why? Because the poem is written in irregular rhyme, particularly to give the natural tone or the natural expression to the poem. So now let's begin the poem and understand it line by line. Others abide our question. Others means other writers or critics, including Matthew Arnold, abide, answer our question. He says that he and other writers are able to examine and analyze and even to pass their judgment on the work of other writers. But he says, thou art free, means you are beyond our understanding. We fail to understand you through your work. We fail to make a head or tail by going through your work. We are unable to understand your gigantic stature. Why? Because you do not give us room. You do not give us a space to enter your world, to enter your mind, to understand the structure of your mighty brain. So we fail to understand you through your work. See, he says we ask and ask means he says he, including others, try their level best to understand Shakespeare through his work. But what happens? What does Shakespeare do? He does the same the ocean does, the sky does. Is it possible for us to some extent scale the depth and the width of the sky or scale the depth of the ocean? Now possible. But see how huge it is. At the time of Arnold, to some extent, it was not possible. In the same manner, Shakespeare was out of the scale, out of the measurement of the critics and others of his time. So great. He says, out-topping knowledge means your knowledge is beyond the understanding of the humanity. For the loftiest hill, see, for the loftiest hill, he says that you are just like a gigantic mountain whose head or whose top cannot be seen. We human beings cannot see the head. The top means the peak of the Mount Everest or the peak of Himalaya. Just in the same manner, we cannot measure the depth of the ocean. Same is the case with William Shakespeare. Here, by using metaphor, Matthew Arnold is comparing the gigantic stature of William Shakespeare to a mountain whose base or foundation is found deep in the ocean, and pinnacle or peak or just peak is found among the stars. Same is the case with William Shakespeare. Shakespeare is as deep as the ocean and as high as the Mount Everest. See this. For the loftiest hill, who the stars uncrowns his majesty. Stars, divine creatures, heavenly bodies, uncrowns, reveals his majesty, his greatness. So Shakespeare reveals his greatness to the stars. It means Shakespeare is a divine being. Since he is a divine, only a divine can understand him. A mortal common human living on this planet, that is Earth, cannot understand Shakespeare. He says, planting his steadfast means sound foundation in the sea. So Shakespeare, the stature of Shakespeare is just like a mountain whose foundation, whose base is found deep in the ocean, and the base cannot be seen. In the same manner, just like the base of the mountain and the peak of the mountain remains beyond the eye, remains remains hidden, you can say that, remains hidden from the eye range, from the eyes of the common man. In the same manner William Shakespeare is. It is impossible for the humans on this planet, writers or the critics or the analysts, to understand Shakespeare. They cannot understand Shakespeare. See this. Making the heaven of heavens his dwelling place. So see, where does Shakespeare live? Shakespeare does not live on this very particular planet. Though he was on this very particular planet, but see the stature, see the height of the mind of William Shakespeare. He was absolutely aloof from the common man, common people on this planet. It means he was heavenly. Being human, he was heavenly in his approach of thinking, in his approach of doing. And he has proved it by his mighty works, through his mighty works. See, making the heavens of heaven his dwelling place, spares, means leaves, but the cloudy border of his bed. So, just as we can see the only outline of the high mountains or the just Mount Everest, in the same manner, one can understand very little. One can understand Shakespeare very little through his own work. Why? Because he's so great and so genius. See, to the foil searching of mortality, foil, fail, searching, search. Mortality means common man, mortal man on this planet. It means Shakespeare is immortal for Matthew Arnold. Shakespeare has made himself immortal through his excellent piece of work. So we mortals, just Matthew Arnold means to say that others like Matthew Arnold are absolutely unskilled when it comes to judge the work of William Shakespeare. They only succeed to understand a little William Shakespeare through his work. Just as we are not able to see Mount Everest, Himalaya, the peak of Himalaya, just as we cannot see the depth of the ocean, in the same manner we cannot understand William Shakespeare save a little. See this? And thou who didst the stars and sunbeams know. So he says that since William Shakespeare is not an ordinary being, he does not know about the ordinary people. He knows the stars, he knows the sun. Why? Because he dwells with them. His dwelling is high above this earth, in the sky, of the sky. He lives with the stars and the sun, high above this earth. It means his divine, self-schooled. We all of know that Shakespeare did not go to the universities like Oxford, Cambridge. Whatever he read a little from that grammar school located in Stratford upon Avon. But he educated himself. He was the maker of his own fate, of his own destiny. He made himself so great. Self-scanned. Since no other writer can judge, only Shakespeare could judge himself. He was the judge. Self-honored, he never cared about the honor or the respect. He never cared about to get the respect and honor from others because he was self-sure. He was 100% sure that he deserved honor. Does God desire respect? Does God desire honor? No, because God knows his greatness. And since God is so great, it is natural that it is obvious that God gets the honor and respect. Same is the case with Shakespeare. See, self-honored, self-secure, didst tread on earth unguessed at, better so. So didst tread on the earth unguessed. So since Shakespeare was lost in his own world, being the part of this very particular world, he lived on this earth, but people did not understand his greatness. His contemporaries failed to understand his genius, and it was good. Anil says, see, better so. It means Anil says it was good that the people, contemporaries of William Shakespeare, could not understand him. Otherwise, scenario would be different. So it was good on the part of William Shakespeare that the people of his time, his contemporaries, could not understand Shakespeare. All pains the immortal spirit must endure. So see, just like the great gods brook all the sufferings of the world, they bear all the burden of this world. In the same manner, Shakespeare underwent all the sufferings of the world. He just he accepted all the weakness of the world, that weakness that destroys, that breaks the ordinary being. But Shakespeare accepted and tolerated and subsumed in him everything and reflected the very nature, the very psychology of the humanity. We know that Shakespeare is better known for his characters. His characters are the true representation of the humanity, of the humans, of the human nature. No writer has ever represented, has ever depicted the true nature and psychology of the human being in comparison with Shakespeare, the way Shakespeare has reflected or represented the true psychology or nature of the human. So he says, all pains the immortal spirit stand for. Shakespeare, it means Shakespeare is immortal, must endure, bear all weakness which impairs, breaks, all griefs which bow, breaks, bends, find their soul speech, means expression in that victorious brow, that is William Shakespeare. So the poet concludes the poem saying that all the sufferings, all the complications of the humanity, of the human nature is well expressed by William Shakespeare through his mighty works like Hamlet, like Macbeth, like King Lear. These plays of Shakespeare just show the different shades of the humanity. So I hope, my dear learners, you must have enjoyed this explanation of mine. Let's look at the figure of speech used in this poem. Others abide are question, thou art free, fine. Others abide are questions, thou art free. So if you have a look, see the first line has, sorry, so the first word has O sound, then R, O sound, then you can say that thou, O sound, it means repetition of O sound, that is vowel, it means assonance is used in the first line. Next, we ask and ask, a repetition of ask and ask to emphasize this, that impossible to understand Shakespeare. So, just repetition is used here. Thou smilest and art still. So, smilest, still, again, just a repetition of S sound. It means that is alliteration. Here repetition of A sound, and here S sound. It means alliteration is used in the second line. Next, out-topping knowledge. See, exaggeration. So hyperbole is used. He says that it is impossible to understand Shakespeare through his work. Shakespeare is beyond the understanding. It means exaggeration means hyperbole is used for the loftiest hill. Here Shakespeare, the personality and the stature of Shakespeare is compared to a mighty hill. It means metaphor is used. Who the stars and crowns his majesty. Sorry, who the stars, yes, planting his steadfast footsteps in the sea. Planting his steadfast, see, steadfast S, CS, again alliteration. Next, making the heaven of heavens, again exaggeration, so hyperbole is again used. Making the heaven of heavens his dwelling place. Fine. Next, spares but the cloudy border of his base. See, but, border, just again alliteration, to the foil searching of mortality, and thou who didst the star and sunbeams know. So stars, sunbeams, again alliteration, self-school, self-scan, self-honored, self-secure. So see, again repetition of self, 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 again to give emphasis that how great Shakespeare, how is he glorifying Shakespeare. So again repetition is didst tread on earth unguessed at, better so, fine. All pains the immortal spirit must endure. Again, just you see this exaggeration, it means again just that is hyperbole. Why? Because Shakespeare is here called immortal. All weakness which impairs, all griefs which bore. See, weakness, W, which, W, again which, so repetition is here and alliteration is also here. Find their soul, speech, so soul, speech, again alliteration. So I hope these figures of speech are also clear to you. Thank you, my dear learners. I hope you will enjoy this explanation of mine, and if you enjoy it, I will make a personal appeal to all of you to like, subscribe and share.